Hello, everybody.
Hey, Abby.
Hello, hello.
Hello, good day to you.
Fraser, you made it. Good.
Ray Anderson has like the coolest thing going on with the fireplace coming out of his head and very
That's
mystical. Awesome. Welcome. Hi, Lance, Alex, Jay Wolf. Good to see you. Michael.
How's it going, Cora?
What's up? Happy Friday, everyone.
Yes, happy Friday.
Absolutely. Good to see everyone.
I don't know about y'all, but we're having lovely weather here down in Texas. And it's been really nice to see the flowers in bloom. I'm growing baby squash. They're about like the size of pecans now. Spring, I'm just really feeling it right now. It's nice to spend some time outside after being inside for so long. All right.
Yeah, we got our vegetable garden planted too. We're a little bit early, so we had a couple of frosts that got us, but you live and you learn.
Yeah, you do. What do you got growing, Michael?
Let's see. First, we had all of our greens in, so we had spinach and all of our lettuces. But now we've got carrots in there, and we've got cabbage, and oh my gosh, a whole bunch of stuff. Peas, potatoes. We're growing all kinds of stuff.
I love it. I love it. Welcome, everyone. Happy Friday. So yeah, I'll just go down the list here and see who's hanging out today. Let's see. So from the Bildr team, we've got me, Mark, Drew, and Dorian. So you guys can wave and say hi. And then we have Alex Karpinski and Dan. So these two, Dan's our guest of honor today. Dan and Alex were two of the earliest users we ever let in last year, and we learned a ton from them. A lot about our shortcomings and what we needed to get into place and what was ugly. And so you can thank them for, any sort of good experience you might be having right now, because they probably helped us get there. So I'll be excited. We'll do an intro for Dan, and he can tell us a little bit about his path to what he's doing now. Let's see, Fraser, welcome. I think you had asked about how to get on one of these in the community, so I'm glad that you made it here.
Happy to be here.
And we've got Jay, who's been a few times. Art, welcome. Let's see.
Hi there.
Indrek, welcome back. Lance here. We've got Michael Gill, who was our guest during last Bildr Hour. We've got Milton. Ray Anderson, you seem like a new face. Is this your first time here?
One other one.
One other one? Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome.
And I'm on fire. Yeah, my hair's on fire.
I know he's got the cool thing going on.
Yeah, well, I was sitting in a corner where I thought I was going to be quiet, but it's we got a lot of activity all of a sudden, so I'm going to mute here. Just in case.
Yeah, and anyone, we can just chat if you guys want to chat in the little chat if you have any questions or anything come up. Awesome. And then Shannon, welcome, Shannon. Shannon has been keeping our community and support tickets extremely active, and we're gonna I want to point out what he's been working on towards the end of Bildr Hour, because it's just mega cool. Great. And then we've got Tim Magnuson, Tim Tyler, welcome back, and Tom. All right. Okay, should we get started? Okay. All right, everyone, I'm Cora, and I work with the Bildr team. And today we are going to be having Dan, we're going to do a spotlight on Dan Meehan. Dan has a really, like most of y'all, has a very cool history and story of what he started doing and how that's kind of led him into the visual development space now. And then he's also going to take us through this course that he built. I think we like it meta around here because this is a course that he made that teaches you Bildr by having you go through and build a course yourself. And he's also, I think, in the middle of revamping that, right? Or doing some updates to it in the new UI. Is that right, Dan?
I finished it last night or yesterday afternoon.
Perfect timing. Great. So Dan, you can take us through the build and all of that. But first, I would love if you kind of gave us all a background on what your history has been in, web development and kind of like what you're up to now.
Sure. Yeah, I started in software, and I have to apologize if you can hear my dog barking in the background. I was hoping he'd stop before I got on. But I started in software about a decade ago when I moved to Austin, and was at a startup, a very early employee, kind of wearer of many hats, like I think probably a lot of us on this call. And as we grew, discovered what product management was and decided that that's a career path I wanted to take. So as the company grew and we built out teams versus more generalists, sort of developed a product team and a product process there. And so that was my foray into software and learning from developers, from agile development to product management processes and things like that. And I left that position in October, partially voluntary, partially not. The company I worked for is a company called QQ, which provided software, still provides software in the live events ticketing space. So we did dynamic pricing. So as you can imagine, 2020 was not a good year for the company. So it really scaled down. I transitioned out over the course of a few months. And I had gotten into the no-code space about a year earlier, just doing some side projects and building some websites, mainly in Webflow. I have a little bit of a technical background. Like I went through a coding boot camp a few years ago. So I'm pretty fluent in HTML and CSS. I can't write a JavaScript function. I can find one or find a library and probably put it into a project like Webflow. I've done that a few times, but the side projects kind of grew into, grew into a little side business. Working with friends and family owned small businesses, turned in some referrals into paid projects. So I decided to go when I left my job and try independent work for a while. And I'm still doing that, and it seems to be working. So branching a bit into consulting with small businesses now with a couple of startups, not just building, but implementing streamlined and automated like sales processes, marketing processes, like data cleanup so they can do better reporting on CRMs and things like that. So it's been interesting, kind of broadening my skill set in that respect. Yeah, and as Cora said, I got into Bildr probably more than a year ago at this point. The first project I did, because I wanted to learn it, but I didn't really have anything to build. I took my personal website out of Webflow, partially to learn it, but also realized Webflow's CMS had some like design limitations. You had to do a lot of custom CSS to get styling that you wanted. So just for fun, I essentially rebuilt my website, but also built a CMS to go with it. So I have to like log into my own website to write blog posts using the rich text editor that Bildr has. And that was the first project. And then this is the second one, the online course app that I built late 2020, I guess. And so, yeah, it was in the older UI, which is if you look at the course videos, what it's in, what you see the course is in, but just went through and updated the pattern in the new UI and shared that yesterday into the community. So.
Awesome. So Dan, I'm curious if you could talk a little bit, I know that you mentioned you went to like the coding boot camp. And you learned some stuff there. Do you think that helped you be able to pick Bildr up a little bit better? Or did it help you start thinking about things in a little different way that might have helped?
Yeah, I do. I mean, especially from a styling perspective, because Bildr, you can essentially do it. Well, not essentially, you can do anything with CSS that you want, whether it's through the UI or just what I often do is go into the CSS tab and type in what I want. So I think that helped. As I said, I'm not strong in JavaScript, but I think it was good to go through it in that course just to get a sense of like how elements are attached to actions and are targeted.
Yeah.
But I'm actually drafting a new blog post about that experience versus using no-code tools like Bildr to learn, like coming from a product management background, to get more technical from a software side. I think using no-code tools, especially these fuller stack ones, is a great way for a PM to get more technical versus trying to go really, really deep into a particular language like JavaScript. So
Dan has a really great blog, so I'll share the link in the chat later on today. He's got some I really resonated with a lot of the articles that he's written. And he was one, we started doing this no code event. I think we did that last year one time before, everything got shut down, and Dan was one of the speakers. And it was a really great talk. I think we have it uploaded to YouTube, right? So maybe I can share that as well. Yeah.
We had big plans for that. and then there were no more in-person events after that one. I think we did that in, was it February of 2020?
Yeah, it was right before everything shut down.
Yeah.
We'll find a way to bring that back.
At least we got one in.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see. Yeah. Dan, I would love if you would take us through. Mark, I don't know if you have to do something to let Dan show his screen, but I guess
I think you can just show.
Okay, cool. I think what we'd love to see, and anyone feel free to chat if there's something specific, is would love to see the structure. How did you approach the structure of the pages? Since this one is like, there's two levels to this, right? One is its actual, like, how did you build it? And then two is it's kind of like a course within a course, which is kind of adds a little bit of complexity. So I think going through your approach in how you did the page structure, how did you do the design, what were your inspirations there, and then anything that you would be cool to show as far as maybe like the data structure of some of these things, and then just kind of take us through the various parts of the build. And you can also show us the end result of what it looks like. So whatever feels intuitive for you to kind of go through. We can have any questions come up, and I'm sure Dan would be happy to answer them for us.
Sure, let's do it. And I have to apologize before I start because last night my display on my screen started showing this like pinkish hue. So hopefully it's not too bothersome. I failed to troubleshoot. I have to take it in somewhere this afternoon.
Okay.
But
it's a festive Friday.
yeah, it makes the design system look a little bit different than I want. But let's just go ahead.
Awesome. And then while we start on that,
Okay. Is my screen showing?
Yeah.
And I think the color only is on the screen output on your side because it looks normal to me.
Okay, good. That's a relief. I wish I didn't bring it up then. Okay. Yeah, in a lot of ways, the structure, especially the structure of this app is not too complex. And like, in fact, the first project I built was more complex because I needed like dynamic pages based on like the blog post I was publishing. So this one's a little bit more straightforward. And that was more by design because it's meant to be like a basic instructional introduction to Bildr. So why don't I just start, like, this is the pattern here in the studio, but why don't I just start with some of the functionality, and then I'll go back into the studio and show how some of the things were built. So the full course is hosted on my website. So this is all of the something like 23 videos, 4 or 5 hours worth of recording. But the pattern just has 2 videos in it. And it's basically like a very light clone of like a Udemy or a Teachable app. There's not a ton of functionality, but it has the basics. So essentially you have a data collection of lessons, which are videos and some other basic data on them. And then in the UI, you can interact with this list of lessons. And so if you click one of these, for example, it loads on the right side, and then you can watch that video. And in terms of responsiveness, some slight differences. So it doesn't show the video, or it doesn't show that sort of empty space on mobile, but
How are you?
when you click on or tap one of the courses, the list disappears, and then the video appears, and then you have this menu.
Oh, that's
So
great
essentially
news.
the list
Great
is
news.
the menu
must-
for the mobile version of the course.
Okay, see you there. Thank you.
So let's see. And then just the lessons, there's like what I call this admin page to manage the lessons, the ones you want to load. So let's go preview that. So you enter the name, the title, the length, how long the video is, a description, the embed code, and then the order in which you want it to appear in the list. Fortunately, when I did this, I had saved all of the information on each lesson in a spreadsheet. So just to demo it, we can take any one of these. So I'll just put in the title, make up a length, just make some stuff up. And the videos are hosted on YouTube, but this was a tip from Drew in order to get them to be more responsive than directly embedding the YouTube video. You put the link into the site called Embed Responsively, and it gives you style code that you can embed. And so we did that. And so as soon as you save it, that should be there, and then it will be on the course page itself, and then built in some click to edit. Maybe I didn't build in the click to edit in the new version. Okay, let me take a note of that. So I'll update the pattern, but in the first version, you could click and edit description and length and things like that, and then you always have some delete functionality, so I can go ahead and delete any of those. Okay. And then, yeah, it works like a traditional SaaS app. So it has this marketing landing page, the homepage of the app. And I took off, it has authentication on these admin pages and the course pages, but I just turned it off for purposes of the demo. It's turned on in the pattern. I won't go through the full sign up workflow, but just to show it on the homepage. You would sign up here, and then I use the SendGrid action where you would get a confirmation email and then I used user joins by waitlist. So you get an email saying you're on the waitlist. And then once you take the user off the waitlist, obviously they can sign in. And so there's this sign in piece here. And then also used SendGrid for when you take the user off the waitlist, they get an email so they know they could sign in. So that's built into the pattern. Happy to show that, but I was going to focus more on some other things. Starting, I guess, yeah, with I forget if I called it the style guide. Pretty basic, but I think it's important, especially for projects that I'm doing, like I know I want to take it all the way through to production, like to set this up first. My process, sometimes I'll do like a lot of inline styling as I'm developing if I hadn't done mockups or anything like that prior. But once I see that I'm doing certain things over and over, I'll turn that into like my own utility class so I can use it over and over again. I think it saves time in the end. I think the style guide videos in the course are by far the longest videos in the course, but I think I say it in them that it saves time in the end because there's a lot of classes that I use over and over in the pattern. So the first thing I usually do is do some body level styling. And let's see, in this case, yeah, it just shows the font family, a background color, and then put the font size in pixels. And then you'll see in the style guide itself, I should probably zoom in. Each of the text types are in, what did I use? I think I used EM. Yeah, EN. So they're all relative to the base size and the body. That way, if you wanted to like scale them all up or down in one swoop, you just do that at the body level. And then I think probably the other main thing I used, yeah, some utility classes on sections that I used over and over, and then a pre-made container with a max width of 1140 and probably have some other things on there. Yeah, to help with responsiveness. So I use that container throughout the project. And even though they look a little bit pink to me, there's some colors here that I use. And then for stuff like success and warning messages when there's an error, or I use this neutral message if like you sign up and you're already on the wait list, things like that, use those colors. And
so Dan, this is like
yeah,
the design system that you made that you'll use throughout as you're building the course?
yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
So like you can see, like I've got a secondary button that I used on that admin page, and then the primary button on the home page.
Which this is a really great practice, y'all. Like Dan said, it takes a little bit more work up front, but then you kind of have everything ready to go and you can just reuse in different areas.
Well,
So,
I was excited to see, I think Shannon's on the call, him tweet out yesterday that he's building essentially a more full-blown Tailwind style or Tailwind system, which I'm excited to see. I think that'll be an awesome contribution as a pattern.
Oh yeah.
Rather than building something like this for each project or you know, moving it from project to project. It's also, it doesn't have a ton, just a few colors and basic typography and one container.
Yeah, I think it's something
Dan, are you using that as a reference that you're going back to and grabbing, copying and so forth? Or are you setting those to a class, the CSS class name, and then using that class name?
Yeah, the latter. So like, basically just heading, I created my own H1 class I called heading-H1, and it just has that size. And so when I wanted an H1 somewhere else, like probably here, I would, you know, apply a utility class and then search for it and use that. And same with that like 1140 max width container. Every time I added a new container on a different page, I would just apply that pre-made utility class. So that's why I think it's like I spent, you know, you spend a fair amount of time building this relative to some other more functional pages, but I think it saves time in the end because you're not doing a whole bunch of like experimenting with styling and doing stuff. And you sort of have a predetermined path of the classes you're going to use.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure we all fall into that trap. Like, just go straight to functionality and design as you go. Like I do that all the time, and then I regret it. You know, like, oh, okay, now I need to go back and clean this up. It's like constant refactoring if you're not careful.
Exactly. Like I'm like playing with a landing page for a new project. I was working on it yesterday. I was just hacking through the styling because I didn't really create mock-ups and I didn't build the system out, but I'm definitely going to regret it later, I'm sure. But usually for, like I said, like for projects I know I'm going to go through to the end, I'll make this upfront investment. But if I'm just playing with something, I'll do a little bit of both usually. And a lot, because I use Flex extensively, I also usually will create like a lot of Flex classes I'll know I'm going to use. Like if I know I want Flex row with vertical centering and things like that, I'll create those utility classes up front. Although I don't remember, some of those pre-built in Bildr. I know they were earlier. I don't know if they were in the newer version.
Yeah, we pulled all those classes from the defaults, but
Yeah.
they will on some of the blocks. Like when you pull in a block, it might have grid or flex or something like that already on it, and you'll get those classes as they come in.
Gotcha.
So we kind of shifted that from being opinionated at the core level to more opinionated inside of the blocks and the page templates.
Yeah. And then I want to talk a little bit about my process. This was interesting because I built this basically 3 times, I think. I built it once to know I could not just build it, but record videos of myself building it without too much trouble. And then rebuilt it obviously in the new UI. But what I did, just I think having a PM background was useful. And I still do this in Bildr and other no code tools. I'll essentially write my own user stories with acceptance criteria and test along the way to make sure like I'm incrementally delivering a working product. I had seen another no code course where someone just kind of went through and built the entire app and said like, all right, well, now we're going to go test the whole thing. And there were a whole bunch of bugs and there's a lot of backtracking. So I try to kind of deliver testable chunks that I can QA as I go to make sure it's working along the way. And yeah, I guess I'll look at some of the actions and like how the responsive design was done. So yeah, here's the course page. This is, what is it? It's called a grid list now. It used to be called a list of rows. So here's a separate page, which is called the lesson row for desktop. Pretty simple, has this play image and title and length. So those are tied to the data. And then when you click on that event,
Dan, sorry to interrupt. Could you tell us about your data structure? Like what are the, for everything that you have here, what are the different tables that you have?
there's one table besides the user table, like I said. But yeah, let's go into that. Lessons stores the lessons. So that's where we have the description, the embed code for the actual video, the length, the order, and the title. And then additions to the users table that I end up using and I'll show are this admin status, which I use. So there's authentication, right? Like a user can sign up and get access to that course page. You can't get to that course page unless you're a user who's off the wait list. But because you don't want a user, like someone taking the course, to get to your lessons admin and delete things or add things, I'll show you how you use this status field to do like a further level of permissions where only someone with a status of 1 can get to those pages. And
yeah, I think that would be super awesome.
Yeah, and then I added an email field just because I have this admin users page, so you can see emails of the people who signed up in the UI and turn them into admins if you want. So pretty simple. And yeah, the open lesson action. So it runs an action on this course page, which is to hide this empty state container. So the empty state is this title, this heading, and then this image. So it hides that when you push the button, and then it opens another page which holds the video and the title and description into what was an empty container on this page. And then what else does it do? Yeah, it changes that lesson row to a different color when you click it. Well, let's go back to basically so you know which on the left here, which lesson you have selected.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's nice.
And the video, so this is the video page. It's just, again, a heading tied to data. So the heading has the title from the lessons field, the description has the description, And then the video is actually just what did I do? A paragraph element. So, but it is tied to that embed code. And so when you submit the lesson from that admin page, it saves that code in that field and then pulls from it in the UI.
So that's something interesting that I probably want to expand on in a minute. So because it's just a P tag in HTML, if you throw an embed code as the inner HTML of that, if you have like an actual embed inside of there, the browser is just going to render that as the embedded thing. And so basically you can just use those just like you would a normal HTML element, like if you just hand coded this. So by associating the data to that, the data binding, when that runs, when it does the like set value of that, it's actually setting that inner HTML. That's why that works.
Yeah.
So I have a question on that. Security wise, because you can't, this is a great, powerful thing you can use, but you can also shoot yourself in the foot if you have user submitted content. Where like a user could submit like a script, JavaScript snippet or whatever to do cross-site scripting and things like that. How can we go about using this method, but also securing it to make sure that it's doing like some string interpolation or something to not actually embed the code, but would just show the text of the embed?
Yeah, Drew might be better at taking that one than I am, but really the proper way to do an embed, and it's funny because Michael just said that he just chatted in there saying, I didn't know that I created my own element type for it. And I was saying that's probably, an easier, better way, because for that type of a reason, the JavaScript code that does the rendering in the one that Dan is using here is just the general one. So it's literally just like rendering it and that's it. There's a little more complication to that render function, but probably the proper way to do this would be to do an embed HTML element type. And inside of that, we can do all kinds of things, or you could do whatever you want because it's just JavaScript that you write in there. Drew, would you have anything to add to that, or would you have a better recommendation?
Yeah, I would say probably like similar to if you're coding, just like avoid allowing a user to submit code like that somehow, like in whatever way makes sense. Because it would be the same thing with code. You just wouldn't put an input that saves automatically. I haven't really done too much testing with it, but I use that method. I usually actually change that from a P tag to a div. There's a drop down you can even see on the screen right there. That way, any embed code you put in is like HTML semantically correct too, because it's not inside of a P, it's just in a div. And it usually works out fine, but I guess I never really do direct user submitted code.
Yeah, I guess the question is like, if it's supposed to be a paragraph, but the user submits code, we want to prevent it from actually showing that code. So systems like Vue.js and stuff, whenever they show string data by native, it's going to force that to be text only. It's not going to actually embed the HTML. And then there's like some extra functionality you can turn on for it to say allow HTML, basically. So I think that's something we could look at for this, to just make it secure by default and then turn on the HTML embedding. That would be my preference on this.
Yeah, and there's full control over that, right? Because it's in the HTML render function, or it's in the element render function that's going to do that work. And so you could put it in there because the render function is actually taking that data and rendering it, right? So depending on how you're doing it. Now, on the other end, you may not want to allow storage of that type of data as well, right? So you need to parse it and then go through those steps as well.
Cool.
On the server side, on our side, whatever you put in there can't be actually executed server side, right? So I mean, there wouldn't be any security risk to someone like putting an embedded script inside of there because there's no way for that to execute on our back end. But it would potentially be an issue on the front end, right? Like you're saying, as long as, unless someone does what we're talking about here and changes that render function to basically disable the ability to do that. But it's all about parsing, right? Either on the way in or on the way out, or both. But there's no reason that you couldn't do that directly in that function, just overwrite it in your project. Or we probably would be better off just doing it in there by default, like you're saying, and we'll definitely take a look.
Cool.
I'll make a note of that.
Okay, cool. I'll show two more things I think I have on my list. So you'll notice I have a second list item here that I'm using for that responsive view. So let me try to remember how I did this. Essentially, the way I do this is I'll have a section that I'll name to reflect like the desktop version and everything within it. And then a second one, that's the mobile version that is hidden at like desktop size. Let's see. For example, this section dash course mobile uses that other list, and in the styling, right. So I used I just created a utility class called section course mobile. And then that has by default display of none. And then once you get to like landscape mode, it goes to flex, which is what it's using to show. And like the desktop one is the opposite. So it has its own utility class that shows at all sizes. And then once you get down to landscape, it gets hidden. And then I think, yeah, a couple other things there. Where's that event? Yeah, I think on this click is, yeah, on that, in that header, which is its own page, it's got an action where it does this thing. I'll just show it again. So it didn't have that, when it gets down to the size, it shows this other menu item. And then when you click a lesson, it toggles to a different image to kind of indicate that click it again to get your list back. And yeah, the last thing is the admin thing that I talked about. Again, I would typically have like authenticate. So here's the admin page. I'll show it first. I think I've got some test users in there. Pretty simple. It's just, showing that email address that they signed up with. When I didn't show it, but in the action to sign up, it also sends the value of 0 into that admin status field. So that's the value you get assigned when you sign up, which means you're not an admin, you can't access this page. And then if I am an admin, I can. So I could say, like, if I wanted this guy Dan to be an admin too, I just click this button and it updates the UI and updates the database. And then the way to restrict it, it's turned off right now, but it's by an action that I'll just redo because it's quick. But when the page loads, added an action. So it's the compare values action. And then you're saying from the current user's info, if admin status equals 1, so if they are an admin, don't do anything. So the page will load for them. But if it's false, I create an action to open the home page. And so if it's 0 or anything else, you'll see this page kind of load for a split second, but then it'll revert to the home page.
One thing, Dan, on that, you could do it the opposite way as well, and like have another page first, and then open this one into a container if they are an admin. So that way, just nothing ever loads for them. And then the other way that you could do it too is you could filter the data of the list based on the current status of the current user, like add it into the filters. And then that way, even if they got into it somehow, it still couldn't get to the data at that point. And then just so everyone knows too, we will be adding server side restrictions based on the user per row. Right now you can do that, but it's added manually, and we could set it up that way. Like that's how my project cycles works. It's actually added to those top level rows. But this is a really good way to do, like if it's some data that's not like, like I wouldn't want to do it in JavaScript like this if it was, say, HIPAA data or something, like if it's like really secure data. But this works really well for a basic level of security at the top end. And yeah, definitely server-side validation, Shannon. And there are server-side filters already. We just haven't exposed them in the UI to you all yet. So it's coming. And then if it was server-side filters, honestly, what Dan's got here would do the exact same thing on the back end. It's so that our goal is to make it to where it's one UI, and you basically just say server or front end is effectively what you'll end up doing.
Nice. Yeah, that's it. And there's I put some instructions on how to use it, because obviously I'm not storing my like SendGrid info here. So it's got some generic placeholders where you need to put in your API information if you wanted to use this, and then how to get yourself set up as that admin user to start.
I love it. Good job, Dan. It looks like Shannon had a question here where he was asking, where is it? Where's the question about the name? Goat?
Oh yeah, it was I noticed the name of the project was Course Goat.
Yeah.
Now I was just curious.
It's the greatest of all time. It's the greatest course. I saw somebody put out like on Twitter, like you name your SaaS app with a word and then the name of an animal. So it's kind of a play on that.
I love that.
Unbelievably, the domain coursegoat.com was not taken.
Did you get that, Dan?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Let me look.
That's funny.
Yes. Shannon, domain hoarders unite. That Mark's another one of those guys, domain hoarders.
Don't talk to me about domains. It's too much money. I did get an offer for one of my domains last week, and I didn't take it. I told them I wanted a lot more money for it, even though I'm not going to use it probably ever. It's just how it goes. You got to hoard them until you use them. I think Art knows a little bit about that too.
I only have one, which is the tacolist.com. If you've seen any of my tutorials, it's all the same app. And just because I have the one, it means like I really got to do a good job on making that a thing. So I don't know. I don't feel legit enough to buy anymore. So if we have any remaining questions for Dan, please feel free to chat them. So he took us through kind of his page structure, how to make a design system. Then we saw a little bit about how to then just apply classes from that design system as you are working on your pages to just turn them into and bring in the styles from the little design system. We saw his data collections, which remarkably, he got away with just having the one for lessons, which is awesome. And then we also got to see how he created an admin panel and then used a value, either 1 or 0, to determine whether when a user accesses that page, they were able to see the admin or not. And then it looks like there's also a sign-up flow that was part of that. So I think that's part of the course as well. And in his tutorial, he teaches you how to set that up. So awesome, Dan. That is wonderful work. We're excited to see the updates that you made on that. And then I think you said there's a pattern that goes along with it as well. So it sounds like there's 2 ways to use what Dan created. Is 1, watch the videos and work along and make the changes in tandem. So then you're actually building the course app, or 2, bring in the pattern and connect the dots. Is that right, Dan?
Yep. Yeah. Like the full version of the course with all the videos is on my website. But the pattern is sort of the more bare bones one.
Okay.
I'm like moving around my screen, realizing I'm not sharing it anymore.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Where can we get access to the pattern link? Are you ready to share that?
That's already published.
Is
I
it
don't
on
know.
your profile, your Bildr profile?
Yes, it should be on my profile. And then I think I tagged it with like course and videos, something like that.
Okay, cool. So what I'll do is when I upload this video to the community, I'll include links for all this stuff. And then I'll also include, it looks like Shannon had a helpful here for a great ebook on how to create your design systems and the design of hierarchy. So that's always fun. So any resources that you guys share, I'll include in the community post. But yeah, thank you, Dan. Thank you.
And I'll second refactoring UI. I think Drew might too. I haven't read the whole thing, but I've
looks
definitely
like Fraser's nodding yes.
Yeah, it's great. And it's kind of like, it's a couple years old now, right? It's maybe 2-3 years ago, something like that. Also follow them on Twitter. Always good design stuff going on from them.
Okay. Great. So it looks like we have a little bit of time left. So I want to give one update on the job board that we went through last time. So we have been debugging that this week just to get some of the final things done. And then I submitted a list of bugs to Mark last night. So I'll just ask him, when will those be done amongst all the other things you have to do?
Yeah, I'm planning on doing those this weekend.
Okay,
So
cool.
As soon as I finish those, it's ready to go, I think.
Yeah, so sorry we're a little late on that, y'all. Shannon's been keeping us busy in the community, and we've gotten some more lessons this week. But what we'll do is I'll add that pattern, we'll add it to the created list, and then we'll also share it out with everyone. I think, Mark, you already did the lessons that go along with it, right? Like how to
I've done a couple of them. They're just in my looms right now. I haven't actually like turned them into the lessons yet, but I've got a couple of them already done. I've got probably, honestly, it's like 15 more that I want to do, but we don't need to have all of them to go ahead and launch it out. I can just continue to add to them over the next few weeks. So
perfect. Great. So we'll update that out. And then I wanted to talk we can share a little bit about what we're working on here. And no, okay. I was going to say, I really want to show you all the new website, but I know Drew probably is like, no, not yet. And we'll do like a big reveal, but I think we can talk a little bit about it. And Drew, actually, could you talk to us about some of the stuff that you're adding in the community that everyone can look forward to?
Yeah, it's pretty much like getting it up to standard to like the bare minimum, but everything from like a much better reply system to reactions that you can click to like, I don't know what else. You can basically, when you come into the community, you can more easily see all the questions, see if there's accepted answers, that kind of thing. And it looks much nicer. I mean, the design's a lot cleaner and it's dark mode.
Yeah, it's super cool.
I'm excited for it. I can't wait to show it. I wouldn't care. I'll show it whenever, but it's not totally done. So we'll wait.
Yeah, I really love it. And then Mark, what are you working on right now?
A lot. So
I'm trying to think of all the things.
Yeah, so the big stuff that we're doing right now is really back-end work. Most of the major changes are back-end work. So these releases always take a bit longer because it's sort of heavier lifting, lots and lots of testing. But we do have the primary stuff of the new speed up done. So this is getting really close to static file delivery for the front end pages. Now it's still doing dynamic rendering, but all of the information for that rendering process, so it's not server-side rendered static. It's server-side static files that describe the entire page. And then the dependency chain is just much more efficient now in this new release. So we're seeing I'm seeing it like 3, 4, 5 times faster. The other piece is, depending on what what's happening on the page. The other piece of that we're working on right now is the multi-region data. So this is to solve a couple of things. One is GDPR over in Europe. The data needs to be stored in a facility in Europe for us to be GDPR compliant. So there's a region toggle on your project right now that describes what region it will execute out of, but that's only the front end right now. So with this release, that'll also be the actual database, not only of the data of your users are storing, but the actual project itself. So everything gets stored in the region that you've set up to be executed from. And then on the front end in the studio, there's lots of little changes I'm making, all kinds of UX tweaks, UX fixes, and then some new features that we'll be rolling out, mainly minor stuff that I've been working on this past week, but some really cool things like when a new revision, let's say you publish a new revision, you can now on any root page set up flow to run. If a user's on the page when the revision gets updated, it'll actually run that flow in real time. So you can do things like, hey, there's a new version of the thing. Would you like to refresh to get that new version right now? So that way they know, because right now, because the sessions will live indefinitely, if you don't set a session to have a limit, it'll just stay there on that version and they could technically stay in that version, stuff like that. And then also checking for whether the user's authenticated or not. And if they lose authentication, automatically run a flow. When the connection, if they lose internet connection or they restore internet connection, run flows based on that. So a lot of little things like that. They're just things that we need. And then on the data collection side, I actually I wasn't sure if I was going to get this into this release, but I think we might be able to get the editing of data collections in the studio. It's going to be close. It may make it, it may not. I did get access to what I needed from my dev team to enable that in the studio just today. So I'll work on building that out next week. And then the other pieces are sharing things with each other. So right now we've built this structure for elements, actions, page templates, blocks, and patterns. Right now, the only thing that you all can share with each other are patterns. I want to open it up to where you can also share elements, actions, and page templates directly. So that way, if somebody has a new action, or like Michael said, I just made this embed element type, right? He said that in the chat earlier. It'd be great for Michael to be able to say, here it is on my profile, go grab it. Or better yet, in the studio, ultimately what I want is when you click on the elements button to add an element, you can see from the community, specifically from other community members that you may follow or subscribe to, see their things that they've shared directly in there. So just making that process of sharing anything and everything in Bildr easier. So those are the primary things that I'm working on. I mean, I say that's me and like a team. So there's a lot of people involved in this. Dorian, Drew, Cora helps out with making sure that we don't break everything as we go. And then obviously our whole dev team also. So yeah.
Or if they do break everything,
I'm sure there's more.
like, hey, you
What'd
broke
you do?
this and you
Right.
broke this and this. I think it's all really good stuff. I'm excited for the sharing of elements and actions. You do have a way to do that. We're trying to make that, all of these things that you can do, we're basically just trying to streamline, make it easier and faster to do them. But if you do create something cool and you want to share it, just put it in a workspace, create a pattern out of that workspace, and then you can just chat the link to whoever, or add it to your profile. And then that's how you can kind of currently share stuff now.
One quick thing on that too, Shannon mentioned it could also do this granulization in the Bildr Hub that he's building out. So I think we're going to talk about Bildr Hub in just a sec.
Yeah.
But the way that we're doing these sharing, anything that we do like this, we definitely want it to be something that you can easily turn into shareable outside of Bildr. So like, put it in a tweet, put it in another community, build your own community, and have these things easily accessible. Mainly because we think that's just the way that it's like a combination of open source and closed source is kind of how we see Bildr right now. Like the Bildr platform is a closed source thing for now. Eventually, it's probably going to be open source too, at least the execution side of it, because I think it'll need to be to grow. But we think anything you build by default right now, just so everyone is 100% clear, we've gotten this question several times in the community. Anything you create in Bildr is 100% owned by you. So it's in our terms of service called out directly. And that's just a belief system on our part. If you create it, it's yours. What you have a license to use is the execution environment and the platform that we've spent all this time and effort building, right? Now that execution is use it for whatever purpose you want. And there's only a few limitations to that, like, don't compete directly with Bildr, right? It's that kind of a limitation. But outside of that, pretty much anything you want to do. Oh my gosh, look at Alex rocking a baby, bouncing a baby. So anything that's created by you or anyone else, we think that's up to you to decide how the restrictions are handled for sharing. However you think that should be done is how it should be done, in our opinion, because it's yours. So absolutely, Shannon, that's how we want to approach that.
Awesome. So speaking of Shannon, please take the floor. I would love if you would tell us what you started working on. Talk to us about Bildr Hub, why you started doing it, which I'm really curious about, just kind of the inspiration there, and just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I am a software engineer by day. I do big data and identity and entity resolution for the ad tech ecosystem. And by night, I like fiddling with websites and web apps, but I don't want to use code because I'm in code all day long. So that's why I'm in the no code space, because people have already built these wheels and I just want to use them. I don't want to invent wheels myself. Started the Bildr Hub as kind of a way for us to aggregate all of the awesome stuff that's happening in the community and bring it up and share it to light. And eventually the goal is also to allow the community to monetize the things they're doing as well. So, some of the things in the future is like adding in an actual marketplace system and ways to monetize patterns that you're creating and things like that. But for right now, everything on there is free and just kind of open. And we're working on V2. So right now it has a list of patterns that are searchable. It's got videos, both by ones that I stole that Bildr posted and ones that I've recorded and others. It's got also a list of built with Bildr, because I was getting a lot of questions in like the no code Reddit space about, I would suggest Bildr and they're like, well, what can it actually do? And so having the Bildr Hub gives people a quick access to getting started with Bildr. Like, here's all of the resources that are available to you. Here's examples of things that have been built with it, so you know what you can do. And then we're just kind of hoping to build that out and just build a community around it, and just like really help support the Bildr community with that.
It makes me so happy. Shannon, would you share with us the link in the chat so anyone can go check it out? And Shannon, do you have any asks of the community or everyone on the call here?
Yeah.
So
right now it's sitting at oneplusmany.io, which is going to eventually be the home for our no code agency or no code low code agency. We're working right now on the V2 version, which when that's ready and deployed, it will actually go to bildrhub.com and be separate from our agency site. And it'll also allow y'all to just go in and do submissions yourselves. So like, it won't require going through me to add it to the site. What we're looking for right now are just patterns that, highlight how to do things in Bildr, different data patterns, custom elements, custom functions, different flows, all of those kinds of things. Those are great patterns. And kind of the more specific a pattern is on that, the better it is for someone to be able to take that pattern and understand what's happening versus trying to, parse through like 10 different concepts that are in one pattern. We're also, looking to add in like some bare bone applications into the pattern space. So like if you want to create a chat app, like here's a bare bones chat app, things like that. So we've been keeping our eye out for patterns that are published. The end goal is to, once we get like Bildr gets permissioning and stuff set up for patterns with like an API or something, is to start allowing people to do, build an application in Bildr and sell that, just like you would at Bubble, or some of these other no code platforms, as well as themes and, sell your flows and stuff like that. But right now we're looking for, open source patterns that would benefit the community. Also videos, how-to videos are great. Like going over, like keeping it under 5 minutes, just very focused on a specific topic, just how to do something in the studio or, with the code. Those are great candidates to get posted on there. Right now we do filter just to make sure like the video is relevant and that it's quality, that like somebody watching it's going to gain something out of it. We are also looking for ideas. So we've got the thought of this idea board on the Bildr Hub right now. And it's like, if you're looking for something to build with Bildr and you have no idea where to start, you could go to this idea board and just start getting some ideas and inspiration. Right now it's tweets. So if you tweet an idea and tag it, and I'll include it on the site, and you'll get free marketing right now. And then, if you build something, that's something we want as well. And there's other things to come down the road that we're not going to talk about yet, but they're really exciting as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shannon. I think it's been like he's been in the tool for like a week, and then now he's like doing all this stuff. It's really amazing. And so, yeah, if anyone is building anything cool or you make something and you want to share it for now, we love the idea of monetization. I mean, that's a big reason why we are building this thing, is so that people can create businesses out of these side projects, like create self-sustaining income. All of that is like wonderful, like more abundance and opportunity for everyone. So that's very, very exciting.
One thing I'll also add is I started work last night on a design system. This design system is hopefully going to be like pivotal around, how we build out the design for Bildr Hub. And our goal is to release the design system and give you basically the powers that you have to quickly iterate and like tailwind and stuff within Bildr by using, like, when you apply a style class, that search box. So you'll be able to find all of your stuff really quickly without having to dig down deep into the style menu. An available color palette and examples and components and all of that stuff. So that's all going to be in that style system, named to be determined. So.
Yes, I love
That's
it.
awesome.
I love it. It looks great. He was sharing some screenshots on Twitter, and it looks really wonderful. I'm excited. So does anyone have anything else before we wrap? It's
Thanks, Dan.
Friday. Great.
Thanks. Shannon.
So hi to Dan's really cute baby. I mean, Alex's really cute baby. Look, it's so tiny. Awesome, everyone. Well, thank you again. And thank you to our guest, Dan, for taking us through the course app. I'll share the link. So if you guys want a great place to get started, go check out his course and then read some of his great blog posts. And thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us on this Friday. Wishing you all a wonderful weekend.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.